Well, it's amazing how fast we've gone through this book together. Now we come to the final week and the fifth purpose. Now let's just review. You were planned for God's pleasure, and the purpose of worship is your first purpose of life, to bring God pleasure by loving and knowing Him. You were formed for God's family, and so God wants you to get to know and love His family. The Bible calls that fellowship. You were created to become like Christ. The Bible calls that discipleship, growing in spiritual maturity. You were shaped to serve God, and the Bible calls that your ministry. Everybody needs a ministry in the church and a mission in the world. Now we come to the fifth purpose, and that is you were made for mission. Now our word mission comes from the Latin word for sending. And Jesus said to His disciples, and He says to us, even as the Father sent me on a mission in the world, I'm sending you on a mission in the world. God has a mission for you, and it's not a mission impossible. That mission for your life is what God wants you to do with your life in the world. There is a specific part and there is a shared part. The shared part is the fact that we are to share the good news with everybody. You know, if I knew the cure for cancer and didn't share it, that would be criminal. If I had the cure for AIDS and I didn't share that, they should lock me up and put me in jail. But we've got something better than that. I know the answer to life. I know how to have your past forgiven, how to have a purpose for living, and how to have a home in heaven. Where else are you going to get that? Only in Jesus Christ. And for me to not share that would be the most criminal of all things. This is good news, and good news is meant to be shared. As you're about to finish this book, I'm going to invite you to find somebody to give this book to. Or maybe you just want to buy them their own copy. Maybe you've marked this one up so that they can begin to know the purpose of life. Once we know that we were made to be loved by God and to know Him back, and once we know the purposes of life, God wants us to share them with others. You know, there are two things you can't do in heaven. You can worship in heaven, you can sing in heaven, you can pray in heaven, you can have fun in heaven, you can eat in heaven, you can fellowship in heaven, you can grow in heaven, you can serve God in heaven. There are only two things you can't do in heaven. One is sin, because there's no sin in heaven, and the other is witness, or tell people who don't know about Christ the good news. Because everybody in heaven is going to already know the good news. They're already going to be believers. So the only thing you can do on earth that you can't do in heaven is sin and share the good news. Now, which of those two do you think Jesus leaves you here to do? Well, He doesn't leave you here to sin, obviously. He leaves you here to tell others. And in this chapter, we're going to start our study on God's mission for your life.